Hello. This is my identity box. I am Matthew Richardson. And the three major things that I wanted to include was the um, the fact that I'm gay, part of my sexual orientation, my nationality. I was born in Moscow, Russia, and adopted and moved here to the States. And my religion. I am pagan. Uh, I I kind of classify myself as a green witch. Um, and yeah, and some of the things that I feel like others or society um, labels us or talks about us in a certain way is, in considering all of these facts are, you know, in queer, it's non-traditional or it's different, or they like to put certain boxes of like, oh, you're femme or you're effeminate or you're not manly, um, or, that's against my personal religion, so it's not okay to do that. And I feel like that's just an easy thing to see when I go out, whether it's in public or just in general, um, just knowing that I'm looked at in a different way and judged automatically based on solely my appearance. And that is something that I feel like are obvious to other people. Um, and, feeling discriminated um, based on those being treated differently because people have strong beliefs about that. Um, and a lot of times, I try to um, hide that, try to dress more straight, more masculine, so that I don't have to deal with those struggles. Um, and that's just a difficult part that I have to deal with. Um, the next thing is my nationality. So, being born in Russia, growing up, I've always asked, like, and not everyone can, but a few people say, oh, like, you have an accent. Where is that from? What is that from? Oh, you're so dark, or you're so tan. Like, I wish I could be as tan as you. Um, and as great and fun as that seems, it's kind of like, you know, yeah, but I like to reflect on the fact of, what if I didn't get adopted? What if I stayed in Russia and those conditions and what that would have been like for me? And, people like to pick the good parts about it, physical skin tones and accents and culture and history and make jokes about, being a communist or liking vodka and things of that nature. But, it's a darker reality of, you know, if I didn't get adopted and if I stayed in Russia, I wouldn't have made it very long, given my um, sexuality. So it would have been something tough. But now this is a part of my identity that I don't think is as obvious. I think people do notice that there is a slight difference in my appearance of, white, quote unquote, of like, oh, they might be from somewhere else, maybe, but I'm not sure. It's not as stark as other ethnicities. So um, I do think it's interesting, but I personally have never gotten any discrimination from this. It's more been a talking point or an icebreaker or something that someone might mention. But I think it's given the fact that I've been here long enough and I don't have a strong accent. I think it's something that's easier to get away with, and something that I don't necessarily have to worry about as much. Um, and then my next thing is my religion. Um, so, I grew up religious. Grew up Southern Baptist and Catholic. Um, and I still like to, attend some masses and attend some sermons of both of those religions. But right now I feel closely tied to the paganism or Hellenism, that more Greenwich side of it. And I think there's a lot of stereotypes and a lot of discrimination comes from that. I think a lot of traditional Christians see that and see it as like, oh, devil worshiper, or, you know, um, just all around negative things. And things like that. And I can see where that comes from and where that discrimination comes from, and how, that fear and, you know, utter shock truly comes from. But I also think it's important to understand the religion, or the practice of, before judgment is made. I've had a lot of family members that ask me questions and I happily answer, and they're like, "Oh, that actually doesn't sound as bad as it seems." For example, um, for me in my practice, I focus a lot on, nature, connecting with nature, both biblically and overall spiritually. Planting herbs, doing rituals and spells, and just kind of feeling closer to earth and nature, but also indirectly feeling closer to, you know, God, both the Judeo-Christian God and a general sense of God. Um, but I think so many people just kind of see it as one thing and don't look past that. But I think it's a lot more peaceful than people would believe. We see a lot of hateful Christians out there, and I think this is an important contradiction of, hey, like, you can be another religion and be nice, and you can, still believe or align with some Christian beliefs and values, but just go about them in a different way. So I think everyone, there's many different forms that Christianity takes on, and I think this Wicca is a similar sense of, like, there's many different forms. There's forms that other people take on that I don't necessarily, agree with, and vice versa. People, I'm sure, don't agree with me, but I think it's just important to know and understand that. But that's definitely something I don't share as much, given our current um, locational region being in the South. I like to just kind of practice at home and do my own things, but I never really take it outside of there. So yeah, and I do think that some of these identities intersect and create a unique experience for me. There has been a lot of times where I've met um, queer covens, groups of uh, witches, and it's interesting to see that both two of my identities can come together, and there's a group for them or dedicated to them, um, and things of that nature. Um, but it's also interesting because my nationality doesn't really connect or intersect with either of my other identities of being spiritual or being queer, because my nationality strongly disagrees with both of those areas. And I do think it's a funny dichotomy of, I have this nationality, but I also have these other two elements of my life that greatly contradict this. So overall, I think it's a interesting experience. But I would definitely encourage others to look more into each of these elements before, any form of judgment would be made.